I am gaming. I am gaming. I am gaming podcast.
Hey everybody, my name is Ivica. Thank you so much for being on the latest episode of I Am Gaming podcast. This is a podcast about the video game industry, entrepreneurship, gaming nostalgia, core principles of game design, and many more cool things I find to be in the same realm of business and creative ventures. This is episode 193, and like always, an enormous, huge, gigantic thanks goes to my Patreon supporters who really make this podcast possible. Without your generous and monthly donations, I wouldn't be able to do this and inch closer and closer to episode 200, which is a lot of years of making I Am Gaming podcast. It's almost 4 years. Wow, that's a lot of spent time, but not in vain, because I have all of you and you're here to listen to me talk, hopefully, and share my ideas about basically anything that comes to my mind, which is the topic of this podcast. But let's say it's mostly about gaming, and this episode is all about gaming, more precisely the process of creating gaming or game design concepts, and why is core gameplay loop so important. But before I go into that, please check out all of my Patreon supporters in the description below. They're amazing websites, initiatives, movie websites, YouTube streams, Twitch streams, games, NFT collections, and so much more. And again, a lot of thanks for your continued support. Now, gameplay and core gameplay loop. It's essential when you're creating a concept for a video game, whatever it might be, if you're working on a concept for a video game, to clearly have the idea what is the core gameplay loop. It doesn't matter if your game is a grand strategy or if it's a simplified first-person shooter. You need to understand what is happening in your game, not just in terms of what is happening to players and with players at any given moment in a match or the game itself, but what is happening also in the metagame, what are the players thinking of and assessing while they continue to play. That way you'll have the whole experience, intended experience, in your mind, and you'll be able to use it as you design further and expand upon your concept. Too often people simply disregard elements and believe they're doing it, quote unquote, in the future, but right now they're developing and exploring and broadening a particular smaller detail while their gameplay core loop remains on a theoretical plane. It shouldn't be on a theoretical plane. If you're again creating a first-person shooter, you have to have the understanding of what the process of shooting will look like apart from the shooting itself. What is the aim? What is the objective? One match, second match, third, seventh, 100th match. I'm playing this shooter game for the first day, for the second day, for the 7th day, for the 30th day. Why am I coming back? Okay, you have the ability to shoot with people in your game. It's a first-person shooter, but why am I doing it again and again and again? If you say, hey, it's going to have a great atmosphere and awesome graphics, that is not the answer. That is not the core gameplay loop. But if you say, hey, they're going to get experience, climb the leaderboard, get tokens, show off, and have ability to place badges on their characters that present where they are on the leaderboard, that's something. So it's like fight to get badges, to get better in fighting. Let's say, for example, with each badge they get access to better weapons or higher tier gear, get more badges, and you have your gameplay loop. It's a basic loop. A gameplay loop can have only 2 nodes, but it should be something that is clear in your mind and in the mind of your team. The exact elements of each point in that core gameplay loop are open to discussion and will change and adapt and evolve through the process of development of the game, but they need to be set out immediately. They need to be clear. They need to be accessible in terms of the core process of creating the game in pre-production stage, where you're creating a game design document and the idea behind the development that will come later on. You need to have these elements set out clear and accessible to everyone and easily understandable to everyone. Otherwise they will not fill themselves up through time naturally and spontaneously. they need to be defined. Even if it's only 2 elements, doesn't have to be 3, 4, 5, 6. Even 2 elements will work, but you need to have them from the get-go. So there you have it. Define your core gameplay loop and you'll get the benefits. Don't do it and you'll reap the disadvantages. And that's my basic point here. So hopefully you found this short podcast episode useful. If you're into game development, if you're into game design, I would love to hear what you think about all of this. If you're first time viewer on my channel, please consider subscribing. I make a lot of stuff like this and a lot of stuff that is not at all like this, but hopefully you can find some entertainment and useful elements in any of those. You can also support me through a range of other options, becoming my Patreon supporter, buying my books on Amazon, which you can also find in the description below. But the simplest, easiest and cheapest way is to just subscribe to my channel and be here for my new video. That's all for this episode. My name is Ivica. Thanks so much for being here, for listening, watching. Not too much things to watch, although. And I hope to see you in exactly 7 days from now. Until then, have a great week and bye-bye.